The Roman Empire's decline was accelerated by severe economic problems. Constant warfare, lavish spending, and mismanagement drained the imperial treasury, leading to widespread financial instability. To address the deficit, Roman emperors resorted to debasing their currency. This involved reducing the silver content in coins while maintaining their face value. This graph shows the dramatic decline in silver content of Roman coins over time. From nearly pure silver in the early empire, coins eventually contained less than 5% silver by the 3rd century. The debasement of Roman currency triggered rampant inflation throughout the empire. This graph shows how dramatically the silver content declined in the denarius, Rome's primary silver coin. As currency lost its value, prices soared and savings were wiped out. Fixed income groups like soldiers and civil servants suffered the most. Eventually, the government was forced to accept taxes in goods rather than coins, and a barter economy began to replace monetary transactions. The Roman taxation system became increasingly oppressive as the empire struggled to finance its military and bureaucracy. This painting depicts a Roman tax collection office. Tax collectors were notorious for corruption and brutality. Cities were held collectively responsible for their tax quotas, forcing local elites to make up any shortfalls from their own resources. Economic hardship widened the already substantial gap between rich and poor in Roman society. This illustration highlights key economic problems that plagued the later empire. Small farmers were particularly vulnerable, often losing their lands to wealthy landowners and becoming tenant farmers or migrating to overcrowded cities. Urban unemployment and poverty became widespread problems across the empire. The Roman tax system relied heavily on tax farmers, known as publicani, who bid for contracts to collect taxes in specific regions. This stone carving depicts Roman officials maintaining tax records. This system encouraged widespread corruption, as tax collectors routinely extorted additional funds from the populace to increase their profits beyond what they had paid to the imperial treasury. The burden often fell hardest on those least able to resist. The economic crisis weakened Rome's ability to maintain control over its vast territory. This map shows the Roman Empire at its peak in 117 AD, spanning 3 continents and governing up to 130 million people. Provincial regions increasingly felt burdened by taxes while receiving fewer benefits from Roman rule. This fueled separatist movements and made frontier provinces more susceptible to external threats, contributing significantly to the empire's eventual collapse. The decline of Rome wasn't just political or economic, it was also deeply social and moral. Traditional Roman values that had built and sustained the empire for centuries began to erode. Early Romans were known for their dedication to public service, sacrificing personal gain for the common good. But as the empire expanded, wealth and luxury began to replace duty and honor as primary values in society. The wealthy elite indulged in excessive displays of opulence, while ordinary citizens struggled. Rome's early military strength came from citizen soldiers who fought for patriotism and civic duty. Over time, this system gave way to armies of mercenaries and foreign troops who lacked the same dedication to Roman ideals. This decline in military capability made Rome increasingly vulnerable to external threats. As Rome expanded, wealth became increasingly concentrated among a small elite, while most citizens grew poorer. This growing economic inequality undermined social cohesion and weakened the empire's foundation. By late Roman times, the middle class that had once formed the backbone of Roman society had largely disappeared. Historian Edward Gibbon famously argued that the rise of Christianity contributed to Rome's decline. In his view, Christianity replaced martial values with pacifism and redirected civic loyalty toward religious institutions rather than the state. Gibbon suggested that as Romans became more focused on the afterlife, they grew less concerned with the fate of the empire. Modern historians continue to debate Gibbon's theory. Many point out that Christianity actually provided stability during periods of political chaos, and that the Eastern Roman Empire, which was deeply Christian, thrived for centuries after the fall of the West. This debate highlights how complex the factors in Rome's decline truly were. The Roman Empire faced constant pressure from barbarian tribes along its vast borders. Several major barbarian tribes threatened Roman territories. The Goths split into two groups, the Visigoths in the west and Ostrogoths in the east. The Vandals moved through Gaul and Spain before establishing a kingdom in North Africa. The Huns, fierce nomadic horsemen led by Attila, terrified both Romans and other barbarian groups alike. These tribal movements put enormous pressure on Rome's borders, as shown in this map of barbarian migrations. Rome's once mighty military faced significant challenges in the late empire. The empire struggled to defend its overextended borders that spanned thousands of miles. The quality of troops declined as recruitment standards fell. Rome increasingly relied on barbarian mercenaries called foederati, while divided leadership and civil wars further weakened the empire's defenses. Barbarian invasions resulted in a series of devastating battles and territorial losses for Rome. The Battle of Adrianople in 378 CE was a catastrophic defeat where Emperor Valens was killed. By 410 CE, Rome had lost significant territories in Gaul, Britain, and Hispania. By 439 CE, the valuable North African provinces, Rome's breadbasket, fell to the Vandals. The sack of Rome by the Visigoths in 410 CE marked a devastating turning point. For the first time in 800 years, Rome was captured by a foreign enemy. The Visigoths, led by Alaric I, looted the city for 3 days. The fall of Rome had a profound psychological impact across the Roman world. St. Jerome famously wrote, "The city which had taken the whole world was itself taken." By 400 CE, the Roman Empire was increasingly fragmented as a result of barbarian incursions. The invasions created severe economic strain from a reduced tax base and disrupted trade networks. Military resources were drained by constant defensive warfare. Political authority fragmented across the western provinces as barbarian kingdoms established themselves within former Roman territory. Recent research has highlighted the significant impact of environmental factors on the decline of the Roman Empire. Climate change and environmental degradation played crucial roles that previous historians often overlooked. At its height in 117 AD, the Roman Empire controlled vast territories across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Sustaining this empire required enormous agricultural production and natural resources. Deforestation was widespread across the empire. Romans cleared forests for agriculture, shipbuilding, fuel, and construction. This large-scale removal of trees had devastating long-term consequences. Roman farms like this one required extensive land clearing. As forests disappeared, so did the natural protection against soil erosion. Heavy rains would wash away fertile topsoil, gradually reducing agricultural productivity. The Roman Empire initially benefited from what scientists call the Roman climate optimum, a period of warm, wet conditions from about 200 BCE to 150 CE. These favorable climate conditions helped Roman agriculture flourish. However, around 150 CE, the climate began to change. The empire faced colder, drier conditions that reduced growing seasons and crop yields. This deterioration continued through the later centuries of the empire, adding strain to an already troubled system. Food security was critical to Rome's stability. The empire depended on grain shipments from North Africa and Egypt to feed its population, especially in the city of Rome itself. Environmental degradation threatened these vital food supplies. As soil degraded from centuries of use and erosion, agricultural output declined. Climate shifts made traditional growing regions less productive, and food shortages became more common. These shortages led to urban unrest and weakened armies that were already struggling to defend the empire's vast borders. The environmental factors that contributed to Rome's decline follow a pattern seen in other collapsed civilizations, such as the Maya. Both civilizations experienced deforestation, soil erosion, and climate change that weakened their agricultural foundation. In both cases, environmental degradation combined with other pressures to overwhelm once mighty societies. Environmental degradation triggered cascading effects throughout the empire. Reduced agricultural production led directly to food shortages and decreased tax revenue, as farming was the economic backbone of Rome. These problems then caused widespread social unrest in cities and weakened Rome's military capacity. With fewer resources, Rome struggled to maintain its large armies and defend against external threats. The environmental crisis thus contributed significantly to Rome's growing vulnerability. While environmental factors alone didn't cause Rome's fall, they combined with political instability, economic troubles, and external pressures to create a perfect storm that even mighty Rome couldn't weather. The lesson of Rome reminds us how closely civilizations are tied to their natural environments. The division of the Roman Empire was a pivotal moment that led to vastly different fates for its eastern and western halves. In 395 CE, following the death of Emperor Theodosius I, the Roman Empire was formally divided between his two sons. The division formalized existing linguistic and cultural differences. The Western Empire was predominantly Latin-speaking, while the Eastern Empire was mainly Greek-speaking, with different administrative traditions. The division created an unequal distribution of resources. The Eastern Empire contained wealthier, more urbanized provinces with better protected trade routes, while the Western Empire faced greater exposure to invasions. The Western Roman Empire suffered severe consequences from this division. With military resources stretched thin and reduced tax revenue, it became increasingly unable to respond to invasions and internal threats. The division led to starkly different outcomes. While the Western Empire collapsed in 476 CE, the Eastern Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire, continued to thrive for another 1,000 years, preserving Roman traditions and governance. The division of the Roman Empire truly was a fatal split. While it formalized existing differences, it created an unbalanced distribution of resources and administrative capabilities that ultimately proved fatal for the Western Roman Empire. Two key figures played decisive roles in the final chapter of the Western Roman Empire's existence. Theodosius I, the last emperor to rule over a united Roman Empire, came to power in 379 AD. Theodosius made Christianity the state religion and was known as Theodosius the Great for his military victories and religious reforms. His death in 395 AD marked a critical turning point, as the empire was permanently divided between his two sons. After Theodosius died, the empire was split between Arcadius, who received the wealthier and more stable eastern half, and Honorius, who inherited the troubled western territories. This division accelerated the decline of the western half, which faced increasing military and economic challenges. Nearly a century later, Odoacer, a Germanic general in the Roman army, emerged as a pivotal figure in Rome's final days. In 476 AD, Odoacer led a revolt of barbarian mercenaries and deposed the teenage emperor Romulus Augustus, often called Romulus Augustulus or Little Augustus. This event is traditionally marked as the fall of the Western Roman Empire. Odoacer chose to rule as king of Italy rather than emperor and sent the imperial regalia to the Eastern Emperor Zeno. While the Eastern Roman Empire would continue for nearly another 1,000 years, the western half transformed into various Germanic kingdoms, effectively ending the ancient Roman state in the west. These two figures, Theodosius I and Odoacer, bookend the final chapter of the Western Roman Empire, from its last period of unity to its traditional end. The fall of the Roman Empire has fascinated historians for centuries, with no single, universally accepted explanation. Alexander de Monte, in his comprehensive work, cataloged over 210 different theories explaining Rome's decline. These theories range from political and military factors to social, economic, and even environmental explanations. Throughout history, different schools of thought have emerged about Rome's fall, each focusing on various aspects and time periods. One of the most enduring debates in Roman historiography is whether the empire fell primarily due to internal weaknesses or external pressures. Internal factors include political instability, economic decline, and social decay. Military weaknesses and governmental oppression undermined Rome from within. External pressures include invasions by barbarian peoples, challenges from the Persian Empire, and changing patterns of migration and warfare. Historians gain valuable insights by comparing Rome's decline with that of other major empires, such as Han China, which collapsed around the same time period. Modern historical consensus emphasizes that Rome's fall was not due to any single cause, but rather a complex interplay of multiple factors. These include political instability, economic pressures, military weaknesses, social changes, environmental factors, and external threats. The geographic division of the empire into eastern and western halves provides crucial context for understanding how different regions experienced Rome's decline. While the Western Roman Empire fell in 476 AD, the Eastern Empire continued for nearly 1,000 years as the Byzantine Empire, showing how regional factors shape different outcomes.